Hi, my name is Mark McDowell. I'm the Managing Director here at Primal. And in last episode, we talked about why you should hire an agency versus not hiring an agency, or potentially utilizing an agency with a mix of in-house staff. So in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about, when you definitely don't need an agency. There's a lot of instances where engagements happen and perhaps they really shouldn't, based on a few different scenarios. One scenario is that, you're a brand and you've got in-house teams with a large backlog of work, and there's no additional bandwidth for your internal team to be working with an agency. And the reason why that's a situation where you don't need an agency is because you do need bandwidth to work with agencies. You need to be able to have the time to potentially have meetings, communicate with them, approve, and strategize together as if you would with an in-house team. So the other scenario is when you're head of marketing or you're a marketing manager and you're the only point of contact who has channel expertise within a particular area in which you're hiring the agency for, and that there's no one else like you who has that expertise. And the reason why that can be problematic is because if you're head of marketing or a manager, you're gonna have to utilize your expertise to work with the agency, and therefore you'd be splitting your time between making that particular digital channel work for the brand and the business and splitting it with your time in management. As we know, when you're splitting time between two different roles, both roles probably don't end up being fulfilled. So it's really good to have an understanding of it and also have another person in-house who understands that particular channel or whichever digital channels you're targeting, and have your job focus on the management side, whereas they can focus on making the channel work for the brand. The other scenario we'd be looking at is when you've got a small budget or when you want to run test projects, which I'll get into. When we look at small budgets, the reason why you probably shouldn't be working with an agency is because we care about the long term. As an agency, we want long-term relationships. We want the brand to do extremely well because that means the relationship lasts longer, and we want to be making an impact very, very fast and making whatever channel that you hire the agency for to work very, very fast. So when we're looking at test projects and you've got a decent budget, but you want to run a test project with an agency, what this typically looks like is, the conversation may go, hey, we have the money, but we want to test you guys out for 1 month. And if you do well in that 1 month, we'll invest more money and we'll continue the campaigns together. Now, for us being an agency, we know that the client or the client side is not convinced that us as an agency will actually deliver on the results promised. Most likely because the brand hasn't tested the channel before, or they're not convinced that we will actually, as an agency, deliver results in that particular channel for them. So this is obviously not good, and it's extremely important for us as an agency to then establish clarity on the client side so that they feel very, very comfortable to commit to a long-term or fully commit the entire budget to whichever digital project or program that they want to get started. Now, the logic behind that is because the client won't believe it will work. It's a reason why you don't want to hire an agency, because if you're not willing to commit for the long term and invest enough money, but run a very short-term test project, you're looking at potentially wasting time and money, because 1 month is not enough time to really be driving an impact. Anyone in marketing knows this. It's about what happens over time and how improvements can be made through larger investments as well as a full commitment to whatever programs that you do. With that, you'll be able to collect more data, there'll be much more learnings to be had, and you'll see things improve over the long term. Because it's 1 month does not lead to a high enough impact, and therefore a lot of the times will most likely fail. Therefore, you've wasted time, you wasted a month. You probably need to find a new agency because you're not convinced that they can deliver results within a month, and essentially you've wasted money as well. In our opinion, test projects can be very problematic, and it's best to actually develop clarity with the agency that you work for, understand their strategy and approach, and help deep enough to get all of your questions answered so that you feel comfortable as well as confident in the engagement with the agency that you hire. So what do you do then if you've got a small budget, right? Not all businesses will have, huge budgets. What we would recommend with a small budget is actually maybe to engage an agency for an audit or to provide a strategy. So maybe with the audit, you could identify opportunities and gaps within the digital channels, and then define a strategy in order to approach it. And then with that strategy and approach, you could potentially build a business case to convince, the owner or whoever is making the decisions around the money for the brand to then invest in those channels, and you get a full program running. So I hope that's helped to answer, when you definitely don't need an agency, because in our experience, things like small investments for commitments to full digital programs, as well as test projects, typically don't work in the short term. And the reason why is we care about the long term, and there should be enough clarity on both sides so that both parties feel confident enough to engage with each other for the full investment or a longer term. So in the next episode, we'll be talking about how to find a good agency and what you can do brand side to really identify what a good agency looks like, so that you can feel confident and engage the right agencies for your brand. Thank you very much.